next talk is actually this is again a video recording sent by Vidwan K. Giridhar Sharmaji, who could not join the live session because of other commitments. And his talk is on the topic Ratnatrayaparīkṣā, Appayya Dikshita's accommodative engagement with different philosophies. So Ratnatrayaparīkṣā is the title of his work, and wherein he engages with other philosophies. Just to give a brief introduction to the speaker, Sri Giridhar Sharmaji was born in a pious Tamil family, and he is currently by profession he's an electronic engineer, but also with more than 30 years of professional experience in the field. But in parallel, he was also blessed by great Vidwan Brahmashri Goda Venkateshwara Shastrigal, who took Giridhar Sharma under his tutelage. So, and then Giridharji learned basics of Tarka Shastra and specialized work in Mimamsa and Vedanta, including Prasthana Trayabhashya and other important texts of both the Mimamsa Shastras under him. From 2018 onwards, Giridhar Sharmaji has been continuing his studies of Mimamsa under Dr. K.E. Devanatacharya and his studies of Vedanta under Mahamahopadhyaya Sri Manidravit Shastrigal. He is also studying Vyakarna under Brahmashri Dattatreya Murtiji. Giridharji regularly takes part in Vidvat Sadas and workshops and talks. He recently participated in our conference on Tantra Shastra, and he also conducts private classes on Mimamsa and Vedanta for very few seekers. So with this brief introduction, we will now play the lecture video that he has sent to us.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We'll be saying about Ratnatrayaparīkṣā, a small work by Appayya Dikshita. From the start of the symposium, we have been seeing various facets of Appayya Dikshita. And we know he's a great Shaivite. Rather, I would say he has been a very instrumental cause in establishing or reviving Shaivism. He did that by writing many of the books and debates, which we hear from history, and he has been a great teacher also. And this Ratnatrayaparīkṣā is also one of important Shaivite work. It's a Shivadvaita work. There are many works in that, starting from a ritualistic Shivarchana Chandrika, etc. There are many doctrinal works like Pancharatna Stuti, Brahma Tarkastava, and then going up to Anandalhari, Shivadvaita and the pinnacle Shivarkamani Deepika. Everything is a whole gamut of literature there. This Ratnatrayaparīkṣā has a unique place in Dikshitendra's literature. First one is there is a misconception about Ratnatrayaparīkṣā. There is a popular opinion. I've heard a few people say that in this book, Dikshitar establishes the supremacy of Shiva, Vishnu, and Jagadamba. Actually, it is not. This the intention of this work is not exactly that. Is what one gets to know as you go deep into it. This has his own commentary, and this is not a typical Vyakyanam where you have this Padachedaha, Padartoktihi, etc. This is more of exposition of what is there in the primary text. The primary text is short, just 8 verses. And this is more elaboration, is the commentary here. So this is again a Shaivite work. Shivadvaita work. And what is the nature of this work is a little bit unique, like I told you. First thing is we have to understand what is the objective, what is the context in which Dikshitendra has to get into establishing or reviving Shaivism. We all know by now the historical background and how he was an important cause in revival of this. There is one famous quotation by him. Vishnurva Shankarova Shrutishigaram Astu Tatparya Bhumihi. Let Upanishad Tatparyam be in Vishnu or Shankara. Nasmagam Tatravada Prasarati Kimapi Svashtam Advaita Bhajam. What is the Tatparyam is in Advaita? So we really do not differentiate between Shankara and Vishnu. Then, sir, why did you write so many books for Shaiva? Kintu, he answers, Kintu, Ishad Vesha Gadhanala Kalita Hridam. For people whose heart is burnt by hatred of Shiva, Durmati Nam, he gives them a title, Durukti Bhaktam. Their silly and illogical arguments have to be demolished. Mamayam Yutna. Just because I established Shiva as Para, or Shiva Paratvam, it does not mean that I have less respect for Narayana. That's what he says. Nahi Bhaudatato Vishnu Vidyesha Shanka. I don't have Dvesha for Vishnu. Go and read this Varadarajastavam. Udghatya Yoga Kalaya Pradayabja Kosham Dhannis Chiradapi Yatharuchi Grihyamanaha Yah Praspurat Aviratam Paripurna Rupa Shreyas Same Deshatu Shashvatikam Mukunda. In Varadarajastavam, he has established the supremacy of Narayana. There is another famous quote by Dikshitendra that is in Shiva Tattva Vivekam. What he has done, the context is this, what he has done is, as the part of the debate, of the dialogue, he has established Shiva's Paratva. And in the process, he also had lengthy arguments and several quotations established Narayana's Jivatva. This is Narayana's Jiva. Very interesting arguments. And finally, says, Iti Kechit. The way he writes, you will not suspect that initially. But finally, say, some people think like that. Radhantikaihi asmakam. Then he says, for us, in our Siddhanta. Kvachit kode nivishtam mantrartavad purana vachanadi lesham avalam. He does not deny the scriptures or the existence of the scriptures, mantra, artavada, purana vachana. But he says lesham, only very few, random. That establishes the jivatvam of Narayana or inferiority with respect to Shiva of Narayana. He doesn't deny that. But he says there is no tatparyam there. Lesham avalambya Narayanasya jiva bhavam maktum nasmadjihva pravartate. Even my tongue does not move in that direction. And he says those who want to do that, that is, who puts down Narayana, they are Veda Vaidika Drohis. So he is very cautious about that. So Narayana also is Param Brahma only. That is also established in several places. Durga Chandra Classvati told Amba is Param Brahma. And the Brahma Tarkastava establishes Shiva Paratva. Why I say this verse is not there to establish the supremacy of these three is, if you want to establish Shiva Paratvam, then you take Brahma Tarkastava and all other books, Pancharatnastuti, etc. So when it is already done, you need not have to do that here. So that is not the objective here. I also have one more disclaimer to make. This Ratnatrayaparīkṣā is a terse work, and the construction of the verse are not very fluid. They are very profound. That we know from his own commentary. And that can be established that can be explained more in a classroom setting rather than this kind of exposition. But I'll give you an outline. So my objective is to, with respect to the title of the talk, that I'll try to do justice and give the outline of how he goes about doing that in those 8 verses. So coming back to this point, this Narayana Paratvam or Shiva Paratvam or Devya Paratvam, he does not establish that in this particular verse. Or I would say these three are supreme beings is not the objective of this verse, because those are already established elsewhere. And moreover, a staunch Advaitin, you give him 2 more entity and say, can you say these 2 are also supreme? Obviously, he'll say yes. Right? That is his specialty. And if you look at works like Arera Vedastuti, there again you have just synthesis. So this is not the synthetic aspect also, the synthesizing or saying A equal to B. That is also not the objective of this. So then what is happening here? So let us take a step back. When this sectarian divisions come in, so when you have this unitary approach like an Advaita, you don't have this kind of problem. You have a different problem, but that's not this kind of problem. That is Shiva great or Vishnu great. You don't have that kind of problem here. In those days, the Vaishnavism came up in a way where Shaivism had to be put down. When we say Shaivism had to be put down, it means worship of Shiva has to be put down. And that can be done, those people thought, can be done. I'm using my words very carefully here. That can be done only by putting down the greatness of Shiva. Actually, that's not the case. That need not be the case is what is established. I'll elaborate. Okay, your favorite deity is A. You say A is great. Does that mean B is not great? It can be either way. I'll give you a very colloquial example. Say I'm talking to my cousin. I say my father is great. Why? I know how he is great. He facilitated all this for me. He went out of his way to make life good for me. So I say my father is great. And he says, yeah, my father is also great. Would I have an argument with him? No. But if my cousin misunderstands that, when I say my father is great, if he misunderstands that I'm trying to put down his father, then there's going to be an argument. He says, no, my father is great. The moment he says no, he disagrees with me, then I'm not going to keep quiet. I'm going to establish. So when I say my father is great, do I mean that my uncle is not great? That was not my intention at all. I was just trying to express my gratitude. But my expression or the context or his misunderstanding, if we If that makes him pick an argument, okay, I'm not going to keep quiet, I'm going to keep arguing. Likewise, so Shiva is great. Do I have to say that everybody else is inferior? There's no need. Or is there a need? Most of the people think there is. When I say A is great, then the corollary is B is not great. That is the normal thinking. That pattern is broken by Dikshita in this verse. Okay, that's a very unique aspect. And that is the objective of this talk I'm trying to point out to you. I can establish the supremacy of my chosen, preferred deity without putting down others. Step one. Can go one step higher by praising others also. And without making this relative comparison, I can establish the supremacy of my deity. That isn't magic. Okay? That's what Dikshita establishes here. Let's see how he does. Like I told you, this is, we won't have time to do all the 8 verses in a very elaborate fashion, but I will try to give the context for each of this and some summary meaning. The first one is Nityam Nirdoshagandam Nirgadishayasukha Brahma Chaitanyam Ekam Dharmo Dharmiti Rupadvayam Ayati Prutadbhuya Maya Vashena Dharmastatranabhutihi Sakala Vishigini Sarvakaryanapuda Shaktischa Ichhadirupa Bhavati Gudaganascha Ashrayastu Ekayoga. Okay. To do this, Appayya Dikshita does not take, say, if you go to Advaitam, like I told, everything is one, then there is no debate. The moment you try to split, then there is a lot of debate. Dikshita plays a trick here. He has chosen Shivadvaitam to establish this. That is, you can have more than one supreme entity. Here I use word supreme for Brahma, because that's what he's also going to say. The question is this: if you say Shiva is Param Brahman, then what is the status of Vishnu? What is the status of Amba? They are also Brahman. How come we have 3 Brahman? Right? That's a basic problem we have. And that's what is being resolved here. And you can follow the same method to establish the supremacy of your deity without putting down others. And that is the accommodative approach we are talking about. Nityam Nirdoshagandam Nirgadishayasukam Brahma Chaitanyam Ekam. That's very obvious. That is Ekam Brahma Chaitanyam. There's only one. There is no, we are not talking about 3 Brahma here. Dharmo Dharmi iti Rupadvayam Ayati Maya Vashena. Due to Maya, it gets, you mentally conceptualize that into 2. Rupadvayam Ayati Gachati. It takes 2 forms. How? Dharma, Dharmi. Dharmi is the entity, Dharma is the property. Let's take it like that. I'm not using the standard academic translation here. This is more like a free-flowing explanation. Dharma is the property, Dharmi is the entity. So when you take property, where does the property reside? The property has to be on the entity, because its property belongs to that. If you take away the property, then the entity loses its meaning. Right? The property doesn't stand in thin air. Of course, when you say property has thin air, the thinness of the air is the property of the thin air. So I'm not getting to that hair splitting argument here. So this Dharmi is the entity, and you have the Dharma as the property. Now, keep aside the dharmi for a moment. Dharmastatra anubhuti sakala vishayini. What is the dharma? That is sakala vishayini anubhuti, that is jnanam. Anubhuti is jnanam. Sarva karyanukula shakti. So this jnanam, you have shakti. Ichchadi rupa, ichcha kriya jnanam. That is the dharma. Not only that, gunaganascha, all the properties or the belief you have about the dharmi, that all belongs to the dharma. Or you quantify all of them and put in the basket of dharma. So you have a dharma which defines what dharmi is. Ashrayastu ekayava. There is only one dharma. Right? So this is the doctrinal principle of the Visishtadvaitam. And this is the most fundamental thing. There is only one entity. If you see it in a unitary aspect, then that is Advaita. But you also have a perceptional difference between the property and the entity. Then there is a Viseshana, Visheshava. That is, all these are much more detailed explanation comes in words like Pancharatna Stuti and Brahmatarkasava. Here, for this particular context, this much is enough to understand the doctrinal aspect. The Avatarika of the second verse, he writes, Asyaiva dharma jnanasya mahimanam upanishad prasiddham prapanchayati. So the first one differentiates between dharma and dharmi, and the dharma happens to be jnanam also. So this is dharma jnanam. That's a mahimanam upanishad prasiddham prapanchayati. So this dharma is there. That's a single entity now. You can treat that as an independent single entity. Even though Ashrayastu ekayava, it belongs to the dharmi, we can perceive that as a single entity. Right? Vedajna dharmam etam pravidatam akiladharam akasham mahu kinchanandam manovaga vishayam adhikam dharmino varnayanti sattam spurtim sukham cha trayapapi jagatam sangirante tadamsham pranakashad vipasti katijadapi tadalam banaste vadanti. Vedajna. Those who know Upanishads, Veda. And here we elaborately quotes from all those Upanishads. Etam dharma, what we saw in the previous word, the dharma, the property, that is pravitatam, that is widespread. Akiladharam akasham, that is the sarvadhara akasham, the base of that one which gives place for everything. Kincha also, anandam. The dharma is the anandam of the dharma. Manovaga vishayam. Adhikam. Dharmino varnayanti. Jagatam sattam spurtim sukamcha. Of this universe, the existence, spurti, the manifestation, and the happiness, everything that we enjoy here belongs to that. Tadamsham sangirante. It is a part of that dharma. So it is not just dharmi and dharma. Now he is bringing the jagat, and everything that is there in the jagat belongs to that dharma. So again, we have only dharmi and dharma. Even though we perceive so many things, everything is mapped onto the dharma. Pranakashad vipasik katijadapi tadalambanaste dharmalambanaste vadanti. Whatever is the dharma jnanam, what was established earlier, that upasanam is what is prana upasanam and akasha upasanam. Everything that is given in Upanishad is upasanam of that dharma, not the dharmi or the dharma. Even though the dharma belongs to the dharma. So that is what is told in the section. Now you have a very good base to map everything we know into these two, dharma and dharmi. Evam dharmasya mahantam mahimanam pradashya dharmino dharmasya cha kritya vibharam darshayati. Now, he split Dharma and Dharmi and established the greatness of the Dharma. Now he is telling what each of them are going to do. So when we talk about the divine, Panchaveda Kritya Karitvam, we say Srishti, that is creation, sustenance, dissolution, covering, and then liberation. Tirodhana Manugraham. And all these are the Krityam or Ishvara's Krityam. Dharma is Krityam. And this is what Brahma does. Janmadhya Sevah, etc. So how does Brahma get to do that? Kartrutvam tasya dharmi kalayate jagadam panchake srishti gurudev. Starting from srishti, all these 5 aspects or the 5 karyas, 5 work of this divine, this dharmi kalayati kartrutvam from the dharma. How is dharma pungubam atva sakala jagad upadana bhavam vibhakti? This dharma again manifests into 2 parts. One is masculine and then the feminine. The masculine part of the dharma pungubam atva sakala jagad upadana bhavam vibhakti. That becomes a upadana karanam for the jagat. That's a material cause for this universe. Stri rupam prapya divya bhavati cha mahishi swashriyasya adikattu. This adikattu dharmi. This dharmi is mahishi, consort. That is what the feminine aspect of the dharma becomes. You have dharmi, you have dharma, and dharma gets split into 2, masculine and feminine. The masculine part is a material cause for the universe, and the feminine part becomes the consort of the dharma. Okay. So these 3 has come now. Prokto dharma prabhedavapi nigamavidam dharmivat brahmakoti. Here it says that dharma prabhedav, the 2 distinct manifested aspects of the dharma, of the dharmi, the Chaitanya's dharma, Chaitanya's 2 dharma, that prokto brahmakoti prokto, they also belong to the category of Brahma. Nigamavidam dharmivat brahmakoti. Dharmi is Brahma, we know. Chaitanyam ekarasam, we told that. So that is Brahma. And the property also which we perceive as 2, masculine and feminine aspect, they are also told as Brahmakoti. Nigamavidam. Those who know Upanishad, those who know Veda, that is how they say. And he brings in again several quotations to establish his theory. No, astu tata tayoho purusha vanitayoho brahmakotitvam kuto avasiyate. Okay. How do you establish brahmakotitvam? It's a question he is asking, and then starts the 4th. Yoso dharmi sa shambhuhu. This is obvious. Sa shivaha iti param brahma iti prasiddha. So the start itself is obvious. Yachokta dharminosya vikatata mahishi sa ambika uma iti vitta. Tasya mahishi ambika uma. That is also known. Yaschopadana bhuta parahe purusha saiva narayanoktya khyata. So now he has given name for the dharmi, which is Shiva, Shambhu, and she is Ambika Uma, and this Upadana Karanam, the material cause is Narayanotya Khyata. The name of Narayana is very famous. How do you say all this? Shri Kurma Vakyehi Adhikatamidam. I learned all this from this Shri Kurma Puranam, Naradasyapi Vakyehi, and from other scriptures. And this is one of the most elaborate commentary for this. He has quoted several scriptures here. Very interesting on how he maps a very ordinary phrase, how he maps into this concept. And that needs a very detailed study. Tasseva adyasya vamsat parinadihi akilopi ambaradir vikara tassevansho virinchavidiriha sagalopyesha samsari vargah. Praptim Kripteo Tasya Prapadanam Amritasya Adyam Anandamurti Sthanam Vargasya Jushtam Tad Amritatanayehi Deva Devai Puranayehi. What is doing in the fifth? The introduction says, Evam Shivasya Dharmi Rupatvam. Shiva is the Dharmi. Gauri Narayanoho Tad Dharma Vyakta Bhagarupatvam. Gauri and Narayana are the Dharma of Shiva. Vyakta Bhaga. They are two distinct aspects. Ateva Trayanam Brahma Kotihi is Samarthi. Brahma Kotitvam Samarthitam. And that is how all these three are Brahma Koti. They belong to the group of triad of Brahma. And this is what people think is the crux of this stotra. There is nothing wrong in it. But if you just say Ratnatrayaparīkṣā has come only to establish this, it's not very correct, because these things have been established elsewhere, like I told in the introduction. So here there is more. Of course, by taking this statement, people get misled saying that this is objective. This is not the objective. I'll highlight that. Tasaiva Adhyasapumsa that I explained. So these three have been established as part of the Brahma Koti. Correct. Now see what has happened before we go into the next one. You have, even though this is a Shaiva work, and I'm going to explain later also, he is not only quoting from the Puranas and the Shruti Vakyam, he is also taking help of Srikanta Sivacharya Brahma Sutra Bhashya. And he is telling from which Adhikaranam he is taking this point, etc. That is why this commentary itself is much more difficult than the main text. You should have a little bit familiarity with the Srikanta Matam also. So what he is saying here is, even though this is a Shiva Paratvam, by establishing the Paratvam of Shiva, you can still give equal importance to Narayana and Gauri. And that is the accommodative aspect. And I think that is much more important than saying all these three are Brahma, because it's already established elsewhere, and you don't need 8 verse by Dīkṣitendra to do that again. Evam Ada Gauri Mahima Pradarshana Purvakam Tasya Shivasaha Upasana Niyamam Darshayati. That is on the 6th. This 5th one, there is an important thing I missed. Narayana Samahimanam Shiva Prapti Nichatan Tat Samashrayana Avashyam Bhavam. So when, for those who have to, whose objective, the aspirants who want to attain the Shiva Padam, first thing is they have to do Prapatti or Sharanagati to Narayana. Tasya Prapadanam Amritasya Adyam Ananda Murtyam Sthanam Bhaddasya Sthanam. Only by pleasing Narayana and taking his grace and taking his help, you will be able to attain the Shiva Padam. That is what he is explaining based on the Purma Vakyam and Upanishad Vakyam. He is not just saying this in a very, it's not just a poetical gesture just to establish all are equal and all that. That is not the clear. This is a doctrinal work, and he has given a very clear reason on how that is done. So, even though you are a Shivopasaka, you have to please Narayana. So, there is no question of putting down Narayana here. Your Ishta Devata is Shiva. Fine. Right? And we all have our own choices. As long as you have this Veda Buddhi, as long as you have a limited mind, we have these differences. But here you give equal importance or a valid importance to Narayana to attain the Shiva Pada. The 6th one, he does the same thing for Amba. And the last line is like this. Sahityam Ya Vikhyata Kripabdi Shruti Shirasi Parabrahma Vidya Pradatri. She is the Parabrahma Vidya Pradatri. You see that in Kenopanishad and other places. Sahityam Sa Bhavani Bhajati Niyamataha Shankaropasana. Shankaropasanasu Niyamataha Bhavani Sahityam Bhajati. You cannot worship Shiva without Bhavani Sahityam Umasahayam Parameshwaram. You cannot do prasana to Shiva. You are not supposed to do that without having Amba. So that is also established. So no, you are not putting that lady also no. Shiva Upasana Sakshan Mukti Hetum, that is told in the 7. Srimad Kaurmena Ya Atyashrama Ratavishaya Bhavanokta Tritiya. There is 3 types of Bhavana told in Purma Puranam. The third one is Mukti Upayam, that is Shiva Param, and that is for Atyashrami. Divyasthana Pradatri Sakala Vishayini Shankarālampanasa Ekvanye Bhavane Te Sarsujanayane Adishakyacha Yutte Prapinyo Tasyaha Kramika Bala Yute Bhautikam Sankhya-mate. This is a little bit technical here. One has to go into Purma Purana Vakyam and try to understand those 3 aspects. But the crux of this verse is that for Mukti, Sakshat Mukti is through Shivopasana. For Shivopasana, Amba is the concept, and without Bhavani, Sahityam, you cannot do Shivopasana. To start with Shivopasana, you have to do Narayana Seva first. So this is the gradation that Krama is given. Vidvamsa Shankarasya Eva Muktyupayatvane Varnitāyā Triti Bhavanāyāha Ahangrahopasanatvam. So finally he comes into this Aham aspect. Sakshatkara Dvara Tatra Shivalokasya Vishnulokadapi Uddhalokatvam. So clear. This is why I am saying this is a Shaiva Grantha. He's not saying all 3 are equal. Okay? Yes, establishing the Brahma Koti of all 3 are Brahma. But he is not saying all are equal. So without knowing, people are talking about it. Vidvamsa Shankarasya Shrutimati Mahitopasana Vasanabir Labdasvanta Pratishta Sudridam Abhidayam Tam Vilokyam Atmaneva Vilokyam Golokasya Urdhabhagadavi Paramapadad Vaishnavad Urdhadeshe Basvat Koti Prabham Yanti Apudara Gamastanam Ananda Rupam. So he is talking about the Muktistanam, which is Shivapadam, Bhargasya Stanam, Basvat Koti Prabham, Apunara Agamanam. Punaravartate, up to that he is established. And finally, in his Vyakhyanam towards the end, he says, Amatya Bhashya Dugdhabdin Aptam Ratnatrayam Tataha Shambhur Gauri Harischeti Tatcha Samyak Parikshitam. Amatya, by, what is this word? From the Bhashya Dugdhabdin, Srikanta Bhashya, the milky ocean of Srikanta Bhashya. From that, I have churned out this Ratnatrayam. That is Shambhu, Gauri, Harischeti, Ratnatrayam, Brahya, Tatcha Samyak Parikshitam. He not only took out 3 gems, he also did the Ratna Pariksha also. So you have this Dharmi and your Dharma, and Dharma is masculine and feminine. Masculine is the Narayana, feminine aspect is the Gauri. So these 3 has been established here. Very well established is what is the concluding remark of this commentary. So I will stop with this, and thanks Indika for the opportunity. Shri Guru Namaste.
Thank you, Giridhar Sharma ji, for sending us such a wonderful lecture on Ratnatrayaparīkṣā. Very unique text. I think the conclusion is fascinating in itself.